All right, so thank you everyone for joining us tonight as Asala joins with National History Day to discuss this very important program and how those of us who study African American history and share African American history can participate and share our knowledge with K through 12 students. So I'm going to let each of our speakers introduce themselves. Like I said, my name is Lopez Matthews. I am the chair of the Asala TV committee and a member of the Asala Executive Council. And I will move to Kim Fortney from National History Day.
Thank you, Lopez. Hi, everyone. My name is Kim Fortney. I am Deputy Director of National History Day. I'm super excited to be here and to meet you all. I am looking forward to this session, and I'm going to pass things over to my colleague, Amanda.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amanda. I also work at National History Day, and I'm the Director of Communications, and I'm really excited to talk to you, just like Kim said. I'll pass it to Jamie now, one of my other colleagues.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jamie Hollifield. I just actually got hired for National History Day as an additional program manager. So I'm really excited to talk to you about how you guys can partner with our organization tonight.
And
And
good
then
evening.
pass it on to Richard.
And good evening. My name is Richard Josey. I'm the founder and principal consultant for Collective Journeys. I'm a wellness and belonging consultant, so a lot of the work that I do is centered around not only DEAI, but the outcome of DEAI, which is what we say, which is what we understand as belonging, an increased sense of belonging. And paired with that, lots of work we're doing on mental health, trauma, and the impact that that has in terms of the work that we do, but also the work that we do together and how we come together is the core aspect of what I got going on. And I'm thankful to be working with National History Day to see how we can lock in and build what I think is the word for today is coalition. How do we start to build coalitions so that we can begin to form a collective to battle some of the forces that are fighting against us right now? So with that, I think Amanda, is that you with the PowerPoint?
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen. I also just wanted to give a quick moment before we screen share and become tiny little boxes instead of bigger boxes. If anyone wants to share, anyone who's here to see the session, if you want to introduce yourself, we would love to meet you. Understand people might be in transit or unable to unmute or something, but if you'd like to share and introduce yourself, I would invite you to do so at this time. Okay, well, regardless, thank you so much for attending, and hopefully what you are listening to and reading via transcript tonight speaks to you. So at this time, I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully our conversation will be accompanied by some visuals that really help you to visualize the work that we do at National History Day.
This is the first one, right?
Yeah, so this is to kick us off. I think I'm going to kick it over to either Jamie or Richard.
I'll start just with a couple of quick things and then pass over to Jamie. Um, Thankful to have this space with you all this evening. I think it's fitting and unfortunate for me, at least in my belief system. The world has, for me, has shifted um, within the last week. And what it's also done is has also placed me into a position where I feel empowered to not only think in terms of coalition building, but to also be very intentional about some of the challenges and struggles that have been going on and the ones that we foresee happening much, as we move further along. I work I work on a national stage. So aside from, the work that I do within the consultancy, I'm also doing a lot of work with ASLH, doing some work with AAAM, NCPH, and so, and I'm also the director of diversity and inclusion at the Virginia Association of Museums. So I understand the association life. I also understand that, and have had, a long standing relationship with the Sala. And one of the things that I know from all of the workings of these groups is that all of us are really inspired by the stories of the past that help us to understand where we are in the present to begin to define a future which is different than the one that we've had in the past. And within the context of National History Day, and I won't even talk about National History Day, I'm going to talk about our kids. I got two daughters and I got two grandchildren. And more every day, I am becoming more concerned about what their opportunities are going to be in the future. I'm thinking about what is it that now they have the opportunity to learn, how they learn it, and how that learning is a part of their development process. That it's done in a way where they're hearing and they're understanding stories of the good, the bad, and the ugly. And they're using those stories to position themselves in a way where they can navigate this world um, not only with a sense of honesty and integrity, but a sense of always being in a position of knowing who they are, where they come from, and having a sense of who they can become. I started this work at the age of 10 at Colonial Williamsburg. And so when I look at all of the youth that have been in the program that I was in, where they started to understand this history very, very early and very young. We got doctors, we got lawyers, we got architects, we got people who are in the workforce and they're doing and consultants and they're doing amazing things across the country. And when I look at that and I look at the statistics of people who have gone through, National History Day, for example, and seen some of the studies in terms of their work in comparison to those who aren't, I, I am I am very intent on talking with my daughter to see how we can make sure that these grandbabies, as they grow, that they grow into a position where they can interact with a program like this, because the studies are already there. The studies already tell us that. Um, and and so the world is changing, the world is shifting, and not only for us as practitioners in the field, but they're also impacting, those that are in the classroom. And so I want to hand off to Jamie because Jamie has had some experience in the classroom and she could give us a sense as to what that world is like and what is it that we're working against.
Right. So I'm just going to go through, tell you a little bit about my background. So prior to just joining National History Day, I was a high school teacher for the past almost 9 years. I also taught at a charter school in middle school for 2 years. So I taught in a public school for the last 9 years and also a charter school. So I understand kind of both sides of that. And I've taught in the urban context with my middle school experience, but I've also taught in the suburban context with my public school experience. One thing that I can tell you is it's almost vastly different, but a lot of the challenges are still the same. So as far as the current landscape in education, one of the biggest issues that we're seeing is, and just for frame of reference, I actually was teaching at the high school that I went to high school at. So I have the perspective of being a student in that school and having a different experience than some of my students that I've taught, but can compare that experience as a student and as a teacher in that same environment. So even when I was in high school, you didn't really see a lot of, and I just talk as a frame of reference as a student of color and as a teacher of color. When you're thinking about diversity in our teaching staff, particularly after Brown v. Board, and you guys probably know the history surrounding Brown v. Board and the impacts that had on Black education in the United States and Black education reform overall. But after Brown v. Board, there were less teachers of color teaching in a lot of those schools that were integrated. But now we're seeing kind of this backlash as a result, especially after 2020 with George Floyd and enrollment in teacher of education programs. So as far as the suburban school the context of the suburban school, when I was a student in my high school, I didn't have any educators of color. The first real educators, maybe before I graduated, had two educators of color throughout my entire K-12 experience growing up and living in Wisconsin. And going to suburban schools as part of an integration or intra transfer program called Chapter 220 in Milwaukee. And they were one of the first and more renowned integration programs throughout the country, and a lot of other places modeled their integration programs after Milwaukee, and the MPS, and suburban districts inter-program, uh, desegregation. So even when I was there, I had two teachers of color. My entire K-12 experience, I really didn't have adults of color that I could really look to as mentors until I really was in college. So even beyond college, and we understand that now since George Floyd, a lot of the enrollment has decreased for School of Education programs. And already, if those numbers are already decreased overall, we know that as far as educators of color, those numbers are even lower. So we're starting to see those trends try to change with incentive programs to get people in education programs, but there's a desperate need for that representation both in the classroom. And that affects, obviously, the self-esteem of a lot of students, the need to be able to connect with the curriculum and understand and have a person who can present it in a way that they feel comfortable. So we're seeing a lot of that backlash as well. And on top of that, after 220, there's a lot of backlash with this conflation of K-12 inclusive history education with critical race theory. And critical race theory is really something that you learn when you're in graduate program or in a law program. It's not something that should be conflated with an inclusive history. So in addition to decreased numbers of educators of color, those that are in K-12 education are now being challenged with the task of having to teach history, but not from a multiple perspective lens where those students can really get a full, well-rounded understanding of history. And there's a lot of challenges from parent groups to school boards in terms of having open access to curriculum and what you're being taught. But that can have a huge impact on the curriculum that a lot of, especially social studies teachers teach throughout K-12 schools in our country. So we even had to figure out strategies to kind of say, well, part of the reason why we teach an inclusive history is because we're sticking to the standards. So we had a lot of discussions as a department, and also with other colleagues in other schools on how to teach history in a way that really honors that full history, and not kind of hiding behind these walls because we're afraid of what might happen if we speak out and teach these stories that may make some students feel uncomfortable. And as part of my role, I wasn't only a classroom teacher, I also was an instructional coach that focused on equity. So personally working on a strategic plan and finding what are some ways that we can track some of these changes and alleviating some of the disproportionality that we see in our schools, there was a lot of backlash after 2020, particularly as COVID started to, or students started to reintegrate in schools after COVID. You had the identity politics really playing a part in that as well. So there are a lot of attacks against diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. If you are a DEI coach for your district, some would petition for you not to have your position anymore, or to change your position, or to get rid of those positions. So again, what really is impacted are the students in that school. It's not even just the structure and the adults, but the students are really the ones that are feeling the pressure and feeling the damage from a lot of this pushback that has happened really since, I would say, as far back as maybe 2019, 2020. And so all of this is really important to say. There are ways that we try to circumvent a lot of these things. And National History Day as a teacher was one of those things that really helped me to not only circumvent a lot of this pushback, but also put some of that control in project-based learning like National History Day, where kids can really do the inquiry. Because part of our goal for education is not to tell kids what to believe, but we want them to be inquiry-based and find out answers to things that they really care about. So if there are difficulties in teaching a well-rounded history, particularly history of marginalized populations in the United States, find a topic in your National History Day program and dig into it and do your own research, because part of our goal is to get you to understand and do that inquiry as teachers, not necessarily to tell you what to believe and what not to believe. So National History Day was really one of those tools that helped me as an educator to navigate some of these issues in our current landscape.
Thank you. And last thing I'll say, because before I hand it off to Amanda and Kim, is some of the work that I did when I was in Minnesota, had the honor of being able to spend some time with the Dakota Indians. And one of the elders in the meeting, he asked this question: what kind of ancestor will you be? For in every deliberation, the decision that we make will last us for 7 generations. So what kind of ancestor will you be? And this is a question that I've been asking myself for every project, for every assignment, for nothing at all. If I don't have nothing at all to do, it still comes down to what kind of ancestor will I be? And so I pose that question to you all, not just because we want to work with y'all, but because this is a question that I think is sitting at the core of not only who we are, but who we aspire to be. And what is it that we want to work towards? And like I said earlier, I was just talking to a friend of mine who is on the board at AAAM and Association of African American Museums. And we were talking about the same thing. Like, now is the time for us to start looking at how do we build these sort of coalitions and these partnerships, these compassionate partnerships, in a way where we are collectively part of something that's bigger than ourselves, but also we
Uh-oh, it looks like we might have lost Richard. Hopefully he'll reconnect
talk a
and
little bit.
oh, he's back. Good. You disconnected for a moment. You were saying part of the reason why we asked this question.
Uh-oh. I think he's frozen again.
Shoot. Well, we'll continue on and hopefully he can either come back in full force or add something at the end regarding this question. But I love leading with this question at the beginning of talking about National History Day because I think that the work that our organization does is really related to this question. So we're going to talk about National History Day. So thank you, Richard and Jamie, for leading us into that. And Kim, being the deputy director and being involved with the organization, I think since the 90s, has a wealth of knowledge to share with us.
Thank you, Amanda. Yes, I am that old. So my involvement with the program really started in the very early 90s when I was a long-term substitute teacher in Eastern Pennsylvania, working with some students who were involved in the program. And at first I had no idea what it was, but soon became very excited because of what the students were experiencing. So I could see it through their eyes as they chose topics that they wanted to learn more about, dove into the research, came up with some interesting conclusions. And then some of them were fortunate enough to do well at the regional contest and went on to the state contest, which in Pennsylvania is pretty big and broad. So that was a fun introduction, but mostly it just lit a spark within me of seeing students so engaged, so excited, so passionate about what they had spent so long learning about, and also seeing them look at the work of their peers from around the state and how they learned from that and went back and worked on newer projects the following year, and tried to do better to please themselves and learn more, which is so exciting to watch as a teacher. And then I went on to graduate school and I judged for the program, and then eventually became a regional coordinator in South Central Pennsylvania, Lancaster County, which was a 3-county region, about 300 students at the contest level there. Loved every second of it, did that for 13 years, and then came to the national program in Maryland. So that is where I am now. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the national content or the National History Day program. Jamie gave a really great introduction through her personal experience as a teacher working with students. And she touched upon, by doing that, she touched upon the two big aspects of our program that kind of intersect like a Venn diagram. So she talked about the contest, which is what students participate in. And she also talked about the program side, which is what the program does to support teachers in their work with students. And so I have a little mathematical equation here. This is about the extent of my algebra. But if you add the contest and the program, which is the teacher support, together, and you multiply that by all of the really intense rigor that we expect from our students, through the training that we give to our teachers to help them with that, we end up with some pretty amazing impact. And so I want to talk a bit about what the impact of the program is for students. Okay, so we have lots of ways, and here we have pictures of some happy children who were at the contest. The person above is doing a performance, and then the three students below are talking about their exhibit, and they are clearly very proud of what they have to share. So what the program does for students, we will see here. Students really doing History Day. It's more than doing research on the topic and then creating a poster that maybe has a few bits and bobs on it. They really dig in deep. And so in order to do well with the program, they are diving into critical research and learning how to think. They may have already learned how to think, and this program is helping them to develop that more, but they are looking at the sources and figuring out for themselves whether what they are reading makes sense, and then looking for more sources to back it up, and so on. So through that process, they are learning thinking and analytical skills as well. They are learning how to communicate with each other, with their teachers, with judges, with folks that they might go to interview if they're lucky enough to have a topic that has folks still alive out there. They can do an oral history interview to learn more about their topic. That's a lot of talking to a lot of strangers, and it really helps students to be able to build those skills as well. And then they are managing a really huge project, which, if you think about some of the things we want students to learn how to do for the rest of their lives in whatever career they choose, we want them to be able to manage stuff, to figure things out and keep track of what they're doing. So being involved in the program helps with those things as well. And we want them, and this is something we want for everyone, right? We want every human to be able to evaluate claims that they hear or learn by looking for evidence on their own. Don't we want that world? So very, very important. And through History Day, because they're doing research, they are coming in with some assumptions that they start out with. You know, they're all excited about a topic, and they start to read and they start to learn, and they're immediately challenging what they already thought was true about whatever it was. And then they're looking for evidence to back up what they think. And if they may not find it, they might find evidence that says something else entirely, and it's changing their view about it. We also want them to look at multiple perspectives, different points of view for a topic. So they're looking for evidence of all of those things to be able to tell a whole story. They are engaging with the historical and cultural institutions in their communities and beyond, because in order to do research, they have to get out there. They have to go to their libraries, they have to go to their local historical institutions, they have to go to local archival institutions, and some of that they can do online, and certainly students do go to credible research sites like the Library of Congress, National Archives, but they also will go into local museums and libraries, and that gives them a tie to their local area that is pretty cool. They collaborate with mentors who work with our students at the school level, and they also work with their fellow students. Students doing a project can work together in a group, or they can work on their own. But even if they choose to work alone, they are still collaborating with those around them to be able to shape their ideas and the way that they are thinking about things. And finally, they learn to embrace feedback. This is a skill. And we all know as humans that it takes us a while to find that chip on our shoulder and shove it off, where we're willing to accept feedback and be confident about it. And this is one of the things that the program teaches, because students do a project, they go to a competition, and their judges give them really hopefully robust feedback that will help them improve their project. And they absorb that and hopefully internalize it in a way that they have some clear takeaways that if they want to make their project better, they have to do X, Y, and Z. All right, so what is our reach? We are international. So I often joke, so if we could go back in a time machine to 1974 when our program was founded, we would have a little chat with the founders about forward thinking. So they came up with National History Day because it was a day in 1974. But currently, there are lots of days. There are contests all over the world throughout the spring, local, state, international, national. Um, so it's multiple days, and it's not just national in the US anymore. You'll see lots of red dots because we have a program in every state, as well as DC, which ought to be a state. I'll say that again. And Guam and American Samoa, but we also have you'll see dots out there in the ocean. That's Guam and American Samoa, and Hawaii, of course, but you also see some in Asia. So we have international programs in China, South Korea, and then sort of a catch-all international school program so that students in any country can participate, and boy, do they. So we have about 500,000 or so students around the world who are involved in the program.
So I'll jump in here to give a little bit of the history of History Day. As Kim just mentioned, actually, History Day was started in 1974. So 2024 has actually marked our 50th anniversary. We've had some really fun and really fulfilling events throughout the year reflecting on the 50 years of history, because kind of as Richard alluded to at the beginning of the session, even in the past week, things have shifted. In 50 years, history has certainly shifted a lot, and so has the telling of history. And so we started in 1974. We originally were only based in Cleveland, Ohio. A professor at Case Western Reserve University just was kind of observing the teaching of history and heard a lot of complaints from students that history education was all about memorizing names and dates and reading boring textbooks, and our founder wanted to kind of reinvigorate the love of history. And this was also kind of conveniently timed to the lead up to the American bicentennial. And so folks were thinking, about reflecting on the history of the United States. And so we had about 129 students compete at the first History Day in 1974. And after the neighboring states to Ohio got word about this program in Cleveland, the program just immediately grew and grew and grew. And now, as Kim just showed us with the map, we have programs not only all over the United States, but in many places across the world. And now we are a nonprofit. So not just a program, but we are a nonprofit organization who is both running a contest and offering great programs for teachers, trainings, professional developments, and the like throughout the year, not even just the academic year. We do plenty of summer programs as well.
Okay, so one of the ways in which students participate is to create an exhibit. And this is sort of the famous science fairy kind of way of doing things where students dive into a topic and then they produce a thing. And in this case, the thing is an exhibit that sits on a table that outlines what their historical argument or thesis is, and then shows us all of the evidence that they found to back up their claim.
And every year, the project is related to a theme. We use the themes really to encourage argumentation. So this is especially great for our younger students. Our national program, our international program is for 6th through 12th graders. We actually have a few affiliates that do 4th and 5th grade youth divisions as well, but our international program is offered starting in 6th grade. And so, especially for younger students, the themes really reinforce argumentation toward a specific idea.
So these are some of our favorite themes. We have a theme that changes each year. They are big and broad on purpose, and the one of the things that I love most about the program, and I'm not alone, is that students can choose any topic that is of interest to them, but their challenge is to justify how their topic fits the theme. So these are some examples: taking a stand, triumph and tragedy, conflict and compromise, and my personal favorite, turning points in history, where they have to figure out, how does the thing that I care about, that I want to learn about, fit this theme in a way, for example, turning points, that it really demonstrates a change. Like, this was going on and now my topic happened and now everything is different. And so they have to justify that. And this year's theme is rights and responsibilities. And students have to show both sides of this. They have to talk about a right, and then they have to talk about the responsibilities that go with that. Seems very pertinent, doesn't it? Right. And then I want to talk a little bit about the student process very briefly, being mindful of our time here. So what happens as students do a project? They start with the topic, as I mentioned, they choose something that they care about. And then they dive, and that topic can be anything. It can be world, it can be national, it can be local. In fact, we encourage local history topics as a way for students to really get into local resources and put their hands on stuff. Um, so they do that. They go to places, and they find secondary material and then primary sources to help them understand their topic. Then they start reading it all and they analyze it, and they come up with an evidence-based argument that they can prove about their topic's significance in history. And then they get into the fun part. They create and they share their conclusions, and they support their conclusions with the evidence that they have. And lastly, they compete, first locally, and then they move on to their state or affiliate contest. And then some of the students move on from there to the national contest, which is held annually at the University of Maryland in College Park, Maryland. And there are 5 different categories. So you saw the exhibit category, which is there. We also have paper for students who want to write a traditional type of paper. We have website, one of our tech-based categories. We have performance, and we have documentary. So there really is something for every kind of kid, in a way that they can showcase their skills, and that is most appropriate for the topic they choose. So just a general question out there. Those of you who are in the audience, we're curious if anything you've heard so far that is resonating with you and the work of Asala.
Feel free to unmute or use the chat function if you have anything that comes to mind.
Well, I will just say, as a person who works with Asala, that this work resonates with me because Carter G. Woodson's focus was on sharing history with young people and making sure that they understand their history. While he was alive, there are photographs, there are documents that show that his focus was on sharing history with children. And even when he founded Negro History Week in 1926, his focus wasn't for you to just learn about Black history during that week. It was for you to come and share what you've learned about history throughout the entire year. And that ties in exactly with what National History Day is, where the students spend the year working on this project, learning something. and then they share it with the public so that other people can learn about that topic. Now, this is a competition where, Negro History Week wasn't a competition, but I see the same spirit where it's encouraging young people to learn about history.
Mm-hmm. I think that's also a great point, Lopez. And one thing that we didn't highlight, but probably should have, is that students can spend up to like 10 or 11 months researching and studying their chosen topic. So, to Kim's point of encouraging students to pick something that they find interesting, that becomes very important if they do decide to enter a competition and are continuously doing well, because the topic is going to be something that they'll have to refine and present again and again and again to different audiences. And so hopefully, it's something that they're really passionate about, but it really reinforces the longevity. And I think supplements the work that's done in a classroom where sometimes there is a focus on names and dates, but NHD is encouraging folks to think about what they're learning far beyond the exam or the test or just 1 week when you're studying something.
Yeah, and one of the things that I can just share for myself that really made me want to stay involved with National History Day is there are students who will reach out to my archive asking about getting primary documents so that they can use it in their National History Day projects. And I was even interviewed by a group of students doing a documentary to talk about a topic. And I said, I was very excited to do that because I saw the excitement that they had in learning about this topic. And so it directly connected with me and my work being an archivist and being able to share documents, particularly with young people who you don't typically see in an archive doing historical research. So it's exciting.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for sharing your insight. I checked the chat if anyone has any additional thoughts about how what we've shared so far, or if you think of something as we start to wrap up here, feel free to add it in the chat or unmute and contribute. So now that Kim has talked about the contest side, I just wanted to show some photos. I love showing photos of History Day because it really is so visual and so engaging. And that's what I love about our both contest and programs is that people are really the theme, I guess, of all the things we've been talking about is that people are getting out in the community. They're going to archives, they're going to libraries. Of course, students are, as we've mentioned, but here you see teachers. So this is actually from one of our professional development programs that we hosted this past summer to outreach to under-resourced schools in Indianapolis. And we have a cohort of teachers who've been working and learning there about how to implement National History Day as project-based learning in their classroom. And they were able to go to a local archive in Indianapolis and look at some primary sources from various events in the community in Indianapolis history. And so we're through our programs, not just doing the traditional, PD at the end of the school day when teachers are tired, but we're also offering really exciting and engaging opportunities for teachers to learn. And we have, a really good turnout in the summer. The hottest days of the year when teachers would otherwise be off and relaxing, they're wanting to come in and learn through our programs, which I think is really exciting. And some other pictures here just from some other workshops and activities that we do, just emphasizing collaboration and really a lot of the benefits that students are getting, like receiving feedback, receiving mentorship, learning to think critically. We're also fostering in teachers. And then the teachers are the ones who are helping to foster those skills with the students who participate. So we have our professional development programs and our workshops, and then we also do an annual Teacher of the Year award, recognizing outstanding teaching and leadership in the field of history education, honoring both a middle and a high school teacher each year. That's accompanied with a lot of hurrah and a cash prize. And then I also wanted to show this slide because really to the heart of why we wanted to talk to Asala, and we're so grateful that Lopez offered this opportunity for us to potentially collaborate with you all is because the work that we do is dependent upon partners, both national and local, and then even just the people on the ground, from the teachers to our affiliate coordinators, who you see in this photo. This was taken on a very hot day in Minnesota. We had an affiliate coordinator conference for all of our state or affiliate level coordinators across the world. Folks flew in from Hawaii and Guam and Singapore. And so people, were traveling across the world to meet together. And these are really the folks who are the boots on the ground, so to speak, who are running the programs in their states or in their regions, or as it is in Asia, in their countries. And we also, as you can see, partner with a lot of other folks. We partner with the Library of Congress. We have student showcases at various Smithsonian institutions every summer timed to the national contest. We do teacher professional development that's sponsored by various entities across the US. And we develop like resource books that teachers can use in the classroom. We just developed a resource book for teachers that launched in October in partnership with the 400 Years of African American History Commission, titled 400 Years of African American History. So we love our partners and are so grateful to the opportunities that they help us foster with both students and teachers.
Hey, so thanks, Amanda, for talking through some of the ways that we partner with other organizations. And going back to something Richard said in the very beginning about building partnerships, building a coalition of folks who are working together to really talk about history and the power that it has to study more about it and to reach out to teachers and students to promote critical thinking and engagement. We can't do this alone. This is hard work, and we know that ASALA members are doing this as well in their own way, and we would like to partner more with you to figure out how we can do this together. So there were a few ways to engage, and I just wanted to outline these very, very briefly. We have folks who volunteered in any number of ways, either with the contest side or the program side or both. Many people want to go into the classroom and work directly with students. They might have some extra time in their hands to be able to do that. That can be done virtually as well as in person, though, depending on the situation. And we have people who also want to teach. So maybe you are very passionate about a specific subject area, and you would like to work with teachers. You would like to lead a professional development program for our teachers. Maybe that is something you want to do with a national audience, or maybe it's something you would like to do locally. We have a way you can be involved at that level. Or you might want to judge, and Teresa kindly shared in the chat about her judging experience. And I'm so glad that you had that experience and that you shared about it, because those who have judged really, really brave about it. Most of our judges have such a good time. They can't wait to come back year after year after year to be able to work with students again. And they leave telling us they're so invigorated, they're so passionate, they're so reconnected with the love that they have of studying and sharing their love for history through History Day. And they can do that locally, they can do that nationally, they can do that in person, mostly for the contests, but also a couple are held virtually. So there are a lot of different ways to engage, and we would like to talk more about that with you all, and we'll follow up through Lopez. And speaking of Lopez, if you want to chime in, Lopez, about your judging experience, this would be a great moment to do that.
Well, I will share since you've called me out.
I did,
I'll
yeah.
share that I've been a judge for National History Day for the past, what, 3 or 4 years now.
Hmm.
And I have really enjoyed interviewing the students on the day of National History Day. getting to meet them, getting to talk to them, getting to share my thoughts about their projects. And it's just really enriching to me to see the excitement of the young people. Sometimes I feel sad that they can't all win, but not everyone can win, but they're just so excited about their topic. They're so passionate about their topic. And it really just reminds me that there are people out there who do care about history and are interested in studying and learning about history. And so, that's been a great experience. I tend to judge websites because I like doing the website. And I just love to see the creativity, the topics that students choose, and the way that they're able to learn these critical thinking skills that I think are integral to being good people, good citizens. And I'm just happy to be a part of it. That's why I take the time to continue to do National History Day, because, I really see the benefit of it. And I also see the benefit of having someone like me who is African American, who knows African American history, but also, you know, US history, being there to bring my knowledge and my experience to the judging table. Because, being there, particularly at the national competition, there aren't that many Black judges. And so I am happy to be there, to be one of those few Black judges who are there judging these students who are doing this work. So that's my
Thank you. That was amazing. Thank you, Lopez. All right. So lastly, or not lastly, but penultimately, let's talk about the impact on some of the partners who are engaged with us. So as you heard, first person from Lopez, by engaging with historians, you will, it's a must, you will gain valuable skills, kind of a mirror reflection of what the student experiences. You will gain some of those same skills, collaborating with your fellow judges, mentoring students, providing constructive criticism. That is a thing that we have to hone and practice over and over again. So you'll be able to do that. You'll be expanding your network, meeting your fellow judges from all over the place. You will inspire passion for learning, lifelong passion for learning in students. And isn't that something we all want? You'll be learning from them. So you might or might not be an expert in a certain topic. It doesn't matter, because you will come away learning from the students no matter what, and by seeing their passion for a topic. You will contribute. You will be making a huge contribution toward confidence building and helping students build their skills. And you will know that you've made a difference. You will come away at the end of that long, exhausting day, and you will feel like, I really helped these kids. I really helped them have a good experience more than anything else, because some of them don't win, but they still want to walk away with feeling like this was worth their time. And so you will be setting up positive memories that those students will carry with them forever, just like you do about teaching experiences that you have had. All
So,
right.
Kim,
Yes, that is it for now. I'm going to turn it back to you, Amanda, to tell a personal story.
yeah, I was going to say Kim just provided you with a claim that the partners will make a difference and create positive memories. And so I am here to end cap that claim with some evidence. And the reason that I care so much about History Day is because I was a History Day kid. I did in the performance category several years. I competed and produced projects both in the classroom at the middle school level, and then I was so inspired by being required to do History Day as a classroom project that I did it as a personal extracurricular in high school. I just really enjoyed the opportunity to pick a topic that was of interest to me and that I wanted to read about and learn about. And the mentorship that I received, both from teachers in the classroom and then just people in the community, from the judges who were evaluating my project, or family, friends, or community members who volunteered their time to watch my performance and give feedback, or read my bibliography and provide feedback on where I had gaps and needed to add sources to the claims that I was making. That was such an impactful and experience, and an experience that really shaped my path, and have always been passionate about education, and taught English abroad in Spain, worked for a school district in communications before coming to History Day, and am just so glad now to be working on staff at History Day, because I just think that the work that we do, not think, I know that the work that we do is so impactful to students. And as a kid from rural Missouri, which is where I was born and raised, my experience traveling to the state capital of Missouri for History Day to compete at the state level, and ultimately traveling to Washington, D.C., or the College Park area near DC for nationals, was such a formative experience, and something that, as like a rural Missouri kid, I don't know that I would have had otherwise. So I am just so passionate about our programming. I'm really glad that you all joined us this evening to learn more about it. And so at this point, I saw a few words being exchanged back and forth in the chat. Let me see if there are any questions or anything, but this would be the moment if you have any questions, any ideas or reactions to share with the group. We would love to field them and discuss more about how to stay in touch and further a partnership with Asala.
We have a shy group tonight. Or maybe people are, sometimes people are doing other things, so they can't come off mute. But, we do appreciate you guys coming. I think one of the ideas that I had was maybe us sponsoring or partnering to do a program where young people maybe present a winner or two who are doing the performance category. Maybe they could present at a virtual program to Asala members who won the national contest. There's a African American History Award. Maybe the student who won the African American History Award could come and share that presentation or that project with Asala. Just so that, it doesn't end with National History Day, the event, but they could then share it with other people who have a deep interest in that topic, to see that there are people out there who, outside of National History Day, support what they do. So that's maybe one idea.
I really like that idea. I think it's I remember being a kid, and anytime we had a presentation that we had to do, and I was raised with my grandparents. So my grandparents weren't gonna get dressed and get in the car and drive all out to the road. So most of the time when I had presentations, it was me presenting to, to the public, right? And oftentimes the people in the public didn't look like me, right? And I think there was a certain point in time when I started to notice more people that looked like me in the audience, and there was something else that came up in my soul and in presentations that made me kind of feel like I was accepted, or I was a part of something that was bigger than me. And I have to say that's what I've been in the field over 30 years. That is one of those moments that I think, I didn't think about it until Lopez, you were just saying it. That was one of those moments when it was like, all right, yeah, I'm where I'm supposed to be, right? So I really like that idea. And this is also what we're seeing, how you get more diversity within the field, is tapping hold of the youth. Again, all of us, it was 40 of us that went through the Williamsburg program under Dr. Rex Ellis and then Christy Coleman and Dr. Robert Watson from Hampton University. Um, and it was they kept us grounded. It wasn't a case where we were just coming, we wore the costumes, put the costumes on and do character sketches, for programs and whatnot, that it was more than that. Especially when we had the adults in the audience, kind of saying, "All right, I see you, baby."
Well, I think I speak for all of us at History Day, and I'm sure Richard as well. Thank you so much, Lopez, for offering to host this. I also love the idea that you shared. I know students, and even just from personal experience, I can share that I had done all this research for 10 to 11 months, and I was really sad to like kind of lay my project to rest, and always looking for opportunities to present it in the community or share with people or even just talk about what I studied because the students are such a wealth of knowledge about what they study. So I think that's an incredible idea, and we can definitely follow up about that. And I think what we would also like to do afterwards is just send a message. So Lopez, I'm guessing that you probably have the contact information for folks, if that's okay with the folks who have joined us. We would love to send a follow-up and thank you all for coming, and then just share some information. We can provide a link to our website and such if folks are interested in getting involved, both organizationally or individually, and can just provide the resources to do that.
And I certainly can do that. And if any of you are watching this on Asala TV, please reach out to us at Asala and we can also share those resources with you as well.
Mm-hmm. And our website is very straightforward. It's nhd.org. So if you are curious and you haven't heard from us via email and you've been watching, feel free to head to nhd.org. There are a ton of resources and information, perhaps most importantly, more photos of students being excited by history. So feel free to look around on there as well.
So, well, thank you all so much for coming to speak to us and sharing about National History Day. And I look forward to working with you all in the future. And thank you.
Thank you very much,
Well,
Lopez.
Thank you.